Timex are back with another incredible reissue. This is another Q Timex. It's called the 1971 Velocity, and it gets a checkered dial or a racing dial, and it's a reissue of a 1971 watch that was an electric watch originally, and today we're getting it in quartz form. This is a watch that costs under $200, actually well under $200, and you're getting a rotating bezel. This is a very cool watch. I'm very excited to show it to you guys. So let's flip the camera and take a look at the 1971 Velocity from Timex. Timex have been making watches for a very long time, so it does make a lot of sense that they have a lot of watches in their arsenal, in their history to reissue. And this is a really cool reissue of a 1971 electric model, and this is called the Velocity. So I don't know if it was originally called the Velocity, but right now that's what they're calling it. It's a Q Timex reissue of the 1971 Velocity in 36 millimeters, which is kind of weird because I've measured this a few times and I get it just under 37 millimeters. So it's around 36.9 millimeters at the bezel and at the case. So it's almost the exact same measurement. You do get an 11.5 millimeter thickness, and there's a 5 millimeter crown. It's about a 42 millimeter lug span, so this will wear like a 37 millimeter watch, and it looks like a 37 millimeter watch, so it doesn't really look like a 36 millimeter watch. I think that's a little deceiving. It sounds like it might wear small. This doesn't wear small. It actually has really good wrist presence. I'll show you that in a few minutes. You get an aluminum bi-directional bezel on here, which has a PVD coating. It's in black, and then all of the markings are in white. I love a friction fitted bezel, especially on a watch like this that's meant to be a racing watch, because you do have a racing dial. There is lume on here. There's lume on the hour and minutes hand, and then you have applied indices, and there's little dots of lume on each one of those indices. You do have a checkered flag that goes around the dial. That's sort of the minute track, and that's in red, white, and black, obviously, because the dial is black. It just says at the top Timex, and then down at the bottom it says quartz. You have a crosshair that's in red, so that goes across the entire dial. And then you have a trapezoid date window, which is very 70s inspired. Looks great on this watch. It really does. Overall, I really love the dial layout and what they chose to do here. The indices are little squares with little dots sitting on top of those squares. The squares are sort of faceted, I guess you could say, but there's just two facets. So there's like a top side and a bottom side of each one of those little indices that are applied. Another cool feature on here is the crystal. This gets an acrylic crystal. It is really boxed, really domed. When you turn it on its side, you can see this is an 11.5 millimeter watch thickness wise, and you can see that this is a very big portion of that. It's an acrylic crystal, which I like. It's not a mineral crystal, so they went with something that you could actually buff out. A mineral crystal, obviously, if you get scratches on that, you're not going to be able to buff those out. With this, you could buff it out, and it's actually pretty easy with some polywatch. You do get the coin slot battery hatch on the back. You just use a nickel or a penny or something like that, a dime, and you could unscrew that and change the battery. So it's very easy to change the battery. You don't have to take the case back off. All you need to do is unscrew that. Very typical of the era of Timex watches from that era, and of course all of the reissues, the Q Timex reissues, get this, so pretty cool. Another thing that they've paid attention to is the strap, and actually Timex in general have been paying attention to the straps on their watches, and I could see that because they've been using red wing straps, which are great. I have a reissue, or not really a reissue, it's actually a different version of a Marlin, the Marlin Jet, on my wrist right now. I'm going to show you that in just a few seconds. That gets a Perlon strap, which is really nice. This gets a Tropic rubber strap, and it's perforated, so it's sort of like a rally strap, but it is a Tropic rubber strap, which looks great, and you get a Timex buckle. The Timex buckle is a pressed buckle, but it's a very thick pressed buckle, and it is signed. So, you know, all in all, considering the price on this watch, there are a lot of features to really like. This watch costs $179, which is really very, very good for the amount of style that you're getting here. This reminds me of Omega references from the 70s. The Speedmaster Mark II comes to mind. I actually own that watch. Has a very similar motif around the outer portion of the dial. Of course, that's a chronograph. This is time only, but there were time only watches that were made in the 1970s that has this racing theme. Very cool little watch for a very, very good price. Let me show you the watch that I have on my wrist. This is the Marlin Jet. The Marlin Jet is just cool. This is probably one of my favorite watches, period, that have come out in 2024 thus far. It's an amazing, amazing watch, an amazing just look and idea. The Marlin is a very good looking watch, but what they've done with this is incredible. I really love this watch. And there it is on my 7.5 inch wrist. Like I said, this is about a 37 millimeter watch, not 36. It measures almost 37 millimeters, like 36.9 millimeters, 11.5 millimeters thick, 42 millimeters on that lug to lug. I have a 7.5 inch wrist. I think it wears like a 38 millimeter, maybe. It definitely feels larger or looks larger than the 36 millimeter dimension that they're claiming on the website. I think this definitely is wears a little bit bigger, and it actually is a little bit bigger than what they're saying. But that is not a bad thing. Look at that orange second hand. That is so 1970s. Again, I have a few watches with basically that exact second hand from the 1970s. This is really pulled off well. You have these fence post hands with the black towards the center, so they look like they're floating a little bit. They're not really off-white, but they are a white color, and then you have cream-colored lume on the hands. They've executed this perfectly, and all of this for $179. That is excellent. And look, this friction-fitted bezel, which, you know, it is friction-fitted, which is easier. It makes a lot of sense. It's not loose, but it's not tight, and it lines up every time because it's friction fitted. So that makes a lot of sense to me. When it comes to reissues like this, it's all about the details. The fact that this has lume, it gets 50 meters of water resistance, the case size, the bezel, that little trapezoid date window, everything about it, the applied indices, this is just cool. That racing dial, that checkered flag dial. You see a watch like this on someone's wrist, you may not know exactly how much something like that would cost because there are so many little details. It looks way more expensive than it actually is. And again, this could be one of the better re-releases that I have seen this year. And it comes from, again, Timex. They keep on doing some pretty incredible things with their watches. That Marlin Jet, amazing. They just recently came out with a Falcon Eye chronograph. A lot of their chronographs have been amazing too, and affordable, which is great. I wonder if they'll ever come out with a mechanical chronograph. I keep on asking that question. I really hope they do one day. That would be awesome. But this is a very good reissue, and I definitely recommend checking it out, especially for $179. Tell me what you think of this watch down in the comments below. What do you think of this watch? What do you think of the inspiration? What do you think of the dial? Do you like a racing dial? Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. Please also don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It's super helpful for the channel and I very much appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you for logging on. I'll catch you guys in the next video.